Hi, and welcome to another lesson of the Excel for Absolute Beginners course. This is lesson 17, and we are looking at how to format Excel sheets. And the various options that we'll be looking at include the sheet options, how to adjust the margins, page orientation, how to set header and footer in Excel, as well as page breaks and free spins. So with conditional formatting, I feel there is a lot to it that you need to know. So I want to be covering it in this lesson. Hopefully, I would do a separate lesson on conditional formatting. So let's get into lesson 17. Okay, so when it comes to formatting the sheet, basically it actually has to do more with how your sheet is going to appear when you want to print it or the output of the sheet rather than what's happening in here. So in here within the sheet area, you realize the majority of the formatting has to do with the individual cells, and we have already looked at it in previous lessons where we looked at how to format the cells in here in several different ways. But now our focus is on the sheet itself, and as I said, it's more important to the output of the sheet. If you want to go and print it, how would the sheet look like? So we are going to begin with what we refer to as sheet options. And to bring up sheet options, or most of the things that we are doing when it comes to formatting the sheet, we are going to be looking at the page layout tab. So click on the page layout tab, and we have sheet options as a group here. And under sheet options, you have grid lines and headings. These two are very important. For instance, let's go back to this since we have data here and try printing this. To print your sheet, you can use Control P as a shortcut to go to the print page, or you go click on File tab, then in the backstage view, you have print here. So just click on that and take a look at how the sheet is appearing. You realize that the grid lines that is by default available in Excel is not showing up on our print preview. And the reason is because we have not set it to show. If you want your grid lines to show, then you have to come and check this that show on print. So this is showing because you have set it to show. Like you are seeing the grid lines because by default the grid lines is set to view but not set to print. So if we want it to be in our view and also be in print, then we would have to set both as such. Now let's preview print, and as you can see, we now have our grid lines here. So a lot of people have a problem where they finish with working in Excel, and unfortunately trying to print it is not printing the sheet. This is the simplest way to get your sheet to print with the grid lines. In the same way, when you go to print, you don't see the column headings, but there are times that you want to see the column headings. I mean the column and the row headings. Okay, so A, B, C, D, E, as well as the 1, 2, 3. So to be able to do that, you have to check that you want the headings on the print as well. So at the moment, the heading only shows on the view, and for view you can also turn it off. And as you can see now, I don't have any headings here, but I can turn it on, and I've turned the print on to on. So if I go to print preview, you now get to see A, B, C, D, then 1, 2, 3, 4 as such. So those are two basic things that you can do when it comes to the sheet options or formatting your sheet in Excel. The next thing that we want to look at is the margins. How do we adjust the margins? And as I mentioned, all of these are very important when it comes to printing. Basically, margins are the spaces that the printers leave. Okay, so the printers will not print anything beyond the margin. It's not going to be printed. So the printer is going to be able to print only things within the margin. So we should be able to at times adjust the margin as and when we want. So to be able to do that on any sheet at all that you find yourself, there is the margin option here. And by default, we have these three margins provided. We have the normal, we have the wide, we have the narrow. And when you apply any of these, let me apply it to something with content. So this one, when you apply it to any of them, it's actually visible when you are printing. Without the print option, you will not really see the margin. So when you are about to print, so let's, now that it's at the normal, let's try printing, and the margins are this space. So this to the left, we have the left margin, the space between this and the content, the top margin, the right margin, then the bottom margin will be here. Okay, so those are margins, but let's change from normal to wide and try it again and see. So you realize that now we have increased margins. I hope you can see a difference, increased margins. Then we can try the next one, which is narrow. So we'll have very narrow margins, and as you can see, it has closed up as well. And there is also a custom set of margins. So we can decide to set our margin. We can decide to increase the bottom or the left or the top or the right, and even the header has also some form of margin. If you have a header set already, then you also have some form of margin, as well as footer. So all of these can be derived here. Right under the page layout tab, we have the margin. Click on it. The other way to get to the margin is when you come to the print preview by clicking on the Control P, there is margin option here. So you choose the normal and you see the preview right here. Wide, you see the preview changes. Narrow, you see that change as well. Then you can as well bring in the custom one and set the margin the way you want it. Another interesting thing that you need to pay attention to is how we can center the content on the page. So basically, we can center this horizontally, and that means that look at both sides of the sheet, that's the left and the right, and put this in the exact middle. So as you can see on your screen right now, at the moment it is not centered. So if I go ahead and click OK, then you realize that now it is centered. The same space or width to the left, that's the margin to the left, becomes the same as the margin to the right. We can equally center it vertically so that this will be put in the exact middle. We can as well do both center and vertical, both horizontal and vertical center, so that we have it exactly at the middle. So let's go ahead and try that one and see. And this is how it's going to look like. So all this formatting comes in handy when you are going to print your sheet. The next thing that we need to talk about is orientation of the sheet. By default is on portrait, but you may want to also set it to landscape. So this portrait, as you can see, when you want to go and print it, that's how it's going to look like. Now let's change it to landscape and try printing it, and you see the difference. So this is how it's going to look as landscape. Maybe you didn't see it well, so let me just do the portrait for you to see portrait. And that is the difference between the portrait and the landscape. Right, the next thing that we want to look at is setting the page header and footer. At the moment, we don't have any header or footer on our page, and when you go to the page print preview, you don't see anything like such. If you want to add a header or a footer, that would show up on all the various pages that you print from your Excel, then you can follow this to do that. So right here on the page setup group under the page layout tab, so click on page layout tab, and under the page setup group, click on the dialog box launcher icon here. Then that brings you to the page setup dialog box. Click on header or footer. Then here we can set custom header. So if I want my header to be in the middle, I can type anything. So let me type my name here, and that becomes the header of the page. You can equally format this using this setting here, which we've seen before. you can, instead of writing content here, you can bring in page number. So if I want my page number to be there, I can decide to bring in page number. You can insert number of pages. You can also insert the date, the time. You can insert a link to some other external file. Okay, so all these can be done here using header, and the same can also be done as a footer. Okay, and you can set whether you want them different headers and different footers on the odd pages or even pages. You can set a different one for the first page. Just try seeing how all of these goes, but now I'm just previewing it for you to see. So as you can see at the top, I have near Obed at the top, and that is the header that I set, and one was the page number that I added, so page number 1. Okay, so that is also another way to format your sheet. Another thing that we need to look at is page breaks. So as it stands now, the Excel will automatically decide for us when to break the pages. Okay, so it feels that all that you have written is enough to fill one page. So now go to the next page. It will automatically decide for you. What if you yourself want the, how do you call it, you want to set a page break, you want to set where your first page to end, where the second page or the next page should begin. If you want to do something like that, then we use what we call page breaks to do that. So as you can see now, everything on our page fits onto page 1, or just a single page for that matter. Excel keeps it. But if I want all of these to print, the top content here to print on a single page, and the down content to print on a separate page, then I have to create a page break between them. So to create a page break, what I can do is that we have page breaks here. So select one of these row and choose page break. So insert page break. Once I insert this page break, let's print preview this, and you will see. Now, as you can see, so let's go back to this. This is where I inserted a page break. So up to 4. 4 was where this is going to end. So I've broken the page into 2. That's basically what it means. I've broken the page into 2. From page 4 upwards is one page, and from page 5 downwards is another page. So let's go back to page print preview, and this is page 1 up to number 4. Then let's go to the next one. This is page 2 from 5 downwards. Okay, so that is how page breaks work. You can always go and remove your page break, or reset all of them. And in fact, you can set page break at any point. So I can decide to set my page break here, insert page break, and let's preview this. You see, now I've taken it from 8. So when I go to the next page, you see from 8. So anytime you have any content in Excel, page breaks will help you decide where exactly each page should end. If you don't do that, by default, it will create its own page breaks, and that is when it has been able to fill the page or a single page before it creates another page. The next important thing to look at is how to freeze panes. So sometimes it becomes important, especially when you are dealing with a lot of data in your spreadsheet. You want to be able to freeze some of the columns or rows, so that when you move, they don't move with you. They stay in point, or they freeze, so that you are able to track them. All right, now as you can see, for instance, the headings up here, general, number, text. When I scroll down, they all vanish when I scroll down. But what if I want to see this in context, or I want to see this anytime I scroll? They should still be there. That is when freeze panes comes into the rescue. So how do we freeze a pane? And in fact, we can freeze any side at all that we want. So for instance, let's start with the top pane. If I want to freeze this, let's go ahead, go to view. So the view tab, that's where you're going to find freeze pane. Under the window group, there is freeze panes here. So click on the drop down. We have freeze panes that will help us freeze any either set of rows or columns. Then we can also freeze the top row. So if that is what you are looking for, which that is what I'm looking for right now, go ahead and click freeze top row. Once I've frozen the top row, look at what happens. Now they stay stagnant as I keep scrolling so that it helps us visualize the data. As I said, if you have a lot of data, it comes in handy. So you can unfreeze that and you see it is vanishing again. What if I want this to stay? If I want this to stay, then I should come to select the lower one here, then freeze that pane. So choose the first option, freeze pane, and as you can see now that is staying. You can equally do that with the third option, which is the freeze first column. So if you don't want this column to move, then okay, you let me try freeze on freeze first, then I'll freeze the first column for you to see. So basically, when I scroll to the right, it still remains. The first column remains because I have frozen it. So that is how to freeze the pane. And all of these comes in handy when you are playing with Excel. I hope you've learned a lot from this particular video. And if you haven't watched the previous videos, do want to watch them so that you get a full understanding of Excel. And I'll see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.